basis of his choice. There was, however, in his choice, an extraordinary thing. Notice in verse 2 through 14. What was the extraordinary thing? As he chose, we might say, as he chose his cabinet, his staff. Usually a leader, when they choose those who surround them and support them, usually what are you choosing? What kind of people are you choosing?
Someone like you.
You want someone that what? Thinks like you do. You want someone that will agree with you. You want someone that will affirm all your ideas as leader, right? Is this the type of people Jesus chose? No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. The mixture was amazing. Notice in verse 2. Here's the mixture of the staff. Here's the mixture of the leadership that he was going to give his church to. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these. The first is who? Simon. Remember our study? Was he a good choice? Did Simon have any problems? What was Simon? You remember from our study, what was Simon's problem? He had foot and mouth disease, right? Always had his foot where? In his mouth. You really, why Jesus chose such a volatile character like that, you really don't know why he did. What was his reasoning there? That guy could say some things just immediately. Peter would say what? He would actually say what he was thinking. Publicly. I don't know if I'd want someone on, you'd have to be making apologies all the time. I'm looking at the current U.S. administration and the choices that that leader is making with his surrounding staff. Interested, isn't it? Who else was there? Andrew? His brother? Was Andrew a really outstanding guy? No, Andrew's sort of in the background. He sort of let Peter have his, he knew Peter's personality, and Peter needed that attention more than others. And who else do we find in there? James, the son of Zebedee. Remember what the sons of Zebedee were called?
Thunder.
What were they called?
Thunder.
Sons of what? Thunder. Who wants thunder on the staff? Why would you want that? But that's who he chose. He chose. The mixture is amazing. It is a mixture. And John, Philip, Bartholomew, and Thomas, and Matthew the tax collector. Now who's writing this story? Matthew's writing it, and he put that. Now Matthew didn't have to say that about himself, did he? But he said it about himself. Oh, there's his tag. That meant sinner. And he says, no, he chose a tax collector. Can you imagine that? He chose me, Matthew says. And who else? James, the son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the what? Careful, Canaanite is a terrible translation. That's not a good translation. He was actually a zealot is what he was, but he was a Canaanian, not a Canaanite. And there's a lot of difference between those two. Anyway, you got all those, and even who's Judas? What does Matthew say? Judas Iscariot, the one who what? Betrayed him. And so that's who he's turning his church over to. Those type of personalities. Now, putting the whole story together, you have to put all four Gospels together to get the whole story about his choice. Notice these things about Jesus making of the messengers. He's going to turn the church over to them. First of all, he chose the disciples. Right? He did the choosing. And so if you put all four stories together, you'll find that he did the choosing from amongst what? A big number of disciples that followed him. And so as Jesus' eye, and you get this in Luke 6:13, As Jesus' eyes searched the crowd, he chose a smaller group that stayed with Jesus when the large crowds left. You remember the gospel story. It said Jesus went around doing all this, but at the end, maybe toward the end, when all the crowds discovered that Jesus was trying to help them spiritually grow, instead of giving them food stamps and medical coverage, where did the crowd go? It was gone. So out of all those disciples, Jesus chose 12 that he knew were going to stick with him when the crowds got small. He did the choosing. He understood. And so he chose them, and what else does it say in Luke 6:13? He called them. He called them. Jesus invited them. He did not conscript them. He called them. He gave them an invitation. Jesus invites. He does not compel. He wants volunteers. Someone has said that you get the best results by building a fire within, not a fire under. And he wanted volunteers. That was the basis of his choosing. And next, the text says, and he, now we come to Mark 3:14, now he appointed 12. What does appointment mean? He made them officially, well, no word, ordained, but he made them officially a part of his staff, a part of his leadership that was going to control the church. And it was a gift from among the disciples. And notice, so that they would what? So that they would be with Jesus. Now, disciple, the word disciple means learner. That's what it literally means, learner. It doesn't mean learned. It means what? Learner. It's in the active voice. It means it's supposed to keep what? If you're a disciple of Christ, it means you're supposed to keep what? Learning. No, I got it all figured out. No, you're supposed to keep learning if you're a disciple. And his choosing specifically must have been, although the group didn't look like a very good group, but he chose based upon their desire to keep